Welcome to the Monday Night Brain Dump. Thanks for being here. This week we're talking about guard passing. I'm specifically going to talk about passing kneeling this week. And even more specifically, I'm going to talk about kneeling passes where the strategic objective is to go under our opponent's legs. Guard passes come in different forms. Sometimes we go under the legs, sometimes we go over the legs, and sometimes we go around the legs. Okay? This week I'm focusing on staying on our knees and very close to our opponent and going underneath their legs. Right now you hear a lot about pressure passing, and it's becoming kind of one of the things that people are wanting to learn about. And when I started jiu-jitsu, not to make myself sound old, but back then, kind of the only passes we did were these close, high-pressure passes to where, you know, at this stage in my career, I still feel that it's cheating a little bit to go around to just boop, toss the legs and pass. That's a totally legitimate pass, of course. But there's something about staying close to your opponent, controlling them and their hips the whole time by you being in control of how much distance is between you and you keeping them crushed down and passing and stacking, and they're uncomfortable, and then you're done and you're in side mount and they can't escape side mount. There's something very gratifying about that. So I find it one of the best ways to pass. We also don't get involved at a distance with lasso guards and spider guards and X guards and some of the more advanced guards that exist now, which take advantage of space. So a lot of times in jiu-jitsu, the winner is the person who manages the distance better all the time. Passing the guards, no exception. We're going to talk this week about close, tight guard passing, and that does not involve creating distance by standing or by trying to go around the legs, but which shuts down space by staying close and controlling the hips and adding weight and compressing the guy until we are on top and they cannot get away. So that's the focus this week. I look forward to doing it. Let's get started. This is the standard pass. Hands on the abdomen. I'm going to open my left leg. And I'm going to use right and left. And I prefer that you learn this pass on one side. And if it has to be the goofy side, if it has to be the other side, southpaw passing, that's okay. Just reverse all my rights and lefts. But I would encourage you to get good on one side first. Okay. Hands go to the mat. To my opponent's abdomen. I'm going to open my left leg, center my right. Okay. And now, in order to get height above the person, which helps me create the space I need to get in between the legs, I open my leg. It just slides along the ground. Swipe it across the ground, my big toe, and then wipe my knee up to the ceiling, right over the big toe, so I don't ever lose contact with the ground. Hands on the abdomen, open, center, swipe, which you can hear, and then wipe my knee toward the ceiling. Now, I'm upright, I've got a little distance that I created on my terms, and I'm doing this only to get in between the legs, which might otherwise be tight. So in this case, the reason I created space is to get space between the legs to get underneath one. Okay? But there's a particular way we want to get in there. Now that I'm up and I'm sideways, and it should be hard to move me around with their hips if I turn sideways. If I put my foot where they can reach it and I'm facing forward, they can grab this foot and do all kinds of stuff to me. So please don't mistake me opening and stepping up. For me, stepping up. Okay? I don't want my foot sort of in their reach. And it's not when you do it correctly. So watch one more time with that in mind. Hands on the abdomen. Open, center, swipe, and wipe. Now their head's there, their arm's there. My foot's nowhere near, okay? And I've turned sideways. My base is really good here, okay? Now I'm gonna do this. My palm right toward my stomach. This is awkward. Don't reach in between someone's legs like this. My hand right toward my stomach, down inside the thigh. The legs may not even have opened yet. Here, and then this elbow. I never go too far with this hand, maybe for obvious reasons. Triangle sort of territory. Without, it's buddy. So my hand goes in, my elbow goes in. These both just go between the legs. Now, it may be hard, you'll find, to get under here and like get this leg up onto your shoulder. We want it on our shoulder because this is strength and this is structure when I move forward, stacking them up. So I don't want to stack them by hoisting with my biceps, with my muscles, okay? So what I want to do is, having turned sideways and put my two soldiers in place to get past the legs, instead of relying on the one that's smaller to reach in and be hoisting, just use the one that's bigger and use your body weight and push this to the ground. What happens is when you push someone's legs to the ground, A lot of times they open, and even if they don't open, you know, I'm very limited now. I have a lot of options now. I have basically one leg to work with now because this one is sort of pinned. That's a good thing for me as the passer. So now I'm taking away space. I'm back to taking away space. And that's going to be, the rest of the move is going to be taking away space. So let's do it one more time. Hands on the abdomen. Open, center, swipe. That's a sound. Swipe, and then wipe my knee to the ceiling. Okay. Now my two soldiers go in, hand and elbow. Ooh, and instead of that, I just push here. And it tilts the bowl of the hips, makes this very easy. Now this is on my shoulder. And I'm going to grab the gi. I like to grab thumb in, and I'm twisting. I have to literally twist the lapel. I'm reaching for the opposite lapel. Opposite lapel, twist it, and then I'm going to climb up. And I'm going to go from my right elbow and knee to my left elbow and knee. And what's happening to the bottom guy is I was here, and then, when you progress, you're here. And you want this. You want their hips to come off the ground. I can keep fighting from here with my hips on the ground. And you can stack this leg, and I might be flexible, which I'm personally not. A person might bring their leg way up. The hips are on the ground. You're not passing. It's going to be very easy to stop you if the hips never leave the ground. So we have to make it a priority when we move in. Hands on the abdomen, open center, swipe and wipe. Right? The two soldiers go in, hand and elbow. Elbow goes to work first. Pin that leg so that this comes up easy. Grab the lapel and progress from right and left elbow to left, right and right knee and elbow to left knee and elbow. And now I'm progressing here. And now everything else is going to be about getting their hips off the ground. So if I got to here and the hips didn't come off the ground, I'm actually going to reach back now between the legs, under the butt, and palm the sacrum or hold the belt and tip them up. When you tip them up, you know, this leg that's now on your shoulder is going to be the last thing to go by your face, and then you'll be chest to chest. Super solid pass. This works at all levels, on all levels. So one more time, hands down on the abdomen. I keep my posture. Open center, swipe and wipe. My two soldiers go in. Pin this leg, progress, pin and progress. And now take away space. Leaning might do it. Their hips may come off the ground. This is a flexibility thing. When I start coming in, their legs here, their hips might come off the ground. If not, reach under, grab a belt, hold the pants, or just palm the sacrum if we're no-gi, and just lift their hips up. And what happens is, person getting stacked up, can't take the pressure anymore, the leg comes past your face. This is something we allow by expanding our chest. Right? When I get to this point, when I progress, and I'm adding pressure, I'll do this so that the leg can pass, and I can take my position. It's the only little bit of space I'll give them. And we have actually submission opportunities if we don't give them that space. But to pass the guard, that's the objective. One last time, hands on the abdomen. Open, center, that's the swipe. Wipe, come in, pin, progress, and if necessary, reach under the sacrum, hoist it up, and let that leg pass, and you'll be in a nice side mount, having managed the distance the whole time. Taken away space when necessary, created or given a little space when necessary. The second kneeling pass I want to show, I call the RELSON pass because I picked it up from a buddy of mine who trains under RELSON, Gracie. Okay? This is another devastatingly simple and space-stealing pass. You can put a person in a very awkward position where they can only surrender the pass. Okay? And it looks like this. I'm going to emphasize one detail first, which is my back. Okay? Arching and hunching. I want to start arched, hands on the abdomen, open, center, and now when I go back, I'm going to hunch. You notice with my back arched, back as far as I can step, it's one distance from their abdomen until the cross of their feet. But when I do this, I get a good 6-8 inches of space covered just by hunching my lower back. So it's a very powerful thing, and we want to do it when we do this. So I'm going to start arched, hands on the abdomen, open center like we did on our first pass. And this time, just hunch backwards, okay? This pops open most people's legs, including people taller than you, including people with very long legs. And this is regardless of your height, okay? Now I'm going to come in between the legs. There's certainly a space, if not a break. And the belt is actually right here. I put my knee in their butt. Their hips are right here in front of me. When I come between their legs, I'm going to hold on to the belt right here, okay? And now I'm going to change my angle. Back is arched. Hands on the abdomen. open center, and now arch backwards, okay? I come inside and I grab the belt, and now the other leg, this leg is now awkwardly over my arm, okay? When I push this other leg down, there's very little that a person can do to stop it. I'm just gonna push it down, and I'm gonna staple it. So it's gonna go through this space right here. The staple is, this is one point of the staple, my foot is the other, and their leg is trapped underneath, okay? So after I hunch back and I grab the belt, I push this leg down and I staple it. And now, it's a hard thing to picture if you haven't seen the move, but their leg is kind of awkwardly over my arm, and it's gonna be really easy for you to start coming up and turning sideways and blading. What happens is the spread of their legs only allows their leg to go one direction, not down. It's gonna go up, right onto your shoulder, which is where we wanted it for our first pass. But it gets even better. Because I have their first leg pinned to the floor, or their leg on this side, when I come up and this pops up, I really only need to turn to blade my body and the leg goes by. And when the leg goes by, so now two legs are on the side, one under my leg and one across here. I'm gonna reach right into the crook of the knee and pin my hand to the floor to keep them fetal on their side right here. And then I'll come up behind their lat or collar, and I'll come behind. And you can put together an actual cradle if it's your preference, but one way or the other, you've gotten behind them inside now. One more time. Arched back, hands on the abdomen, open center, and then hunch your way backwards. A lot of the legs are gonna pop open here. Come inside this leg and grab the belt. The reason grabbing the belt is good is a couple of reasons. One is hip control is always good. Two is, if a person was gonna back away, fishtail their way backwards, to create space and put their leg between themselves and me in some other way, it becomes very difficult to do so because you're actually holding them to you. So it's good because we're controlling their hips, but it's also good because we're controlling the distance. Okay, so arch, back, reach in, grab the belt. Now, this leg is right here. Push it down and staple it with this leg. And now come up, posture, and blade. This leg goes right by. And now it's here beside you. You're gonna get the crook of the knee, grab the collar or trap, come around behind the person, and we've just passed. One last time. Arch, hands on the abdomen, open, center, hunch back to break those legs open, reach in and grab the belt and keep them near you, but also control these hips while you push this leg down and staple. Get posture and blade. You know, my foot comes out sometimes a little bit for base here, that's okay. But you just want to blade your body so that the leg goes by, catch the leg in the crook of the knee, and then come up behind the person. Cradle optional. Okay, and that's the RELSON pass. Okay, so there's some troubleshooting that's going to be necessary to talk about with the first two passes that I showed you. So let me cover it now. Okay, problem number one, person grabs your collars. Those are grips that help your opponent and hurt you, and you have to get rid of them. And it's very simple. What is my obstacle right now? How do I take care of my obstacle? And your obstacle, if it's, you know, a pulling control at the collar, you're gonna have to break these grips. So there's a couple ways to break these grips. You know, one is you can grab their wrist with two hands and sort of posture up and pop their hand off. You can do that with grips on their sleeve or just grips on their hand. Okay, so that's one way. And another is to roll their hand from pinky bone to thumb, to roll their hand over. So a hand that's gripped my collar here, and this mimics their right hand. I just come under their pinky and I'm gonna roll it off this way, okay? Both of these are very simple. Grab it and pop it off, or if they have a grip here, go from the pinky, try to catch the edge of the pinky and roll it this way. It's very uncomfortable, very hard to hold on to. If they have a grip on your head, then we have a technique that I know Jason Scully calls wet dog, and I think it's very effective. Someone holds my head, and I can't get my posture because they're just clinging to my head. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna block their biceps either with my hands up in their armpits or my hands on their biceps or holding the material and somehow controlling their upper body. Keep them where they are, okay? So let's say I grab the lapels and I put them in their armpits, okay? Now, wet dog is what it sounds like. They're holding onto my head. Let's say it's no-gi and I'm just blocking the biceps. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna back up and shake off, and it looks ridiculous and it's so incredibly effective. So wet dog is very effective for breaking hand grips on your head, but you also have the option, when someone's got the back of your head, to do something like we did with the gi when we went from pinky and rolled it off. And that's to do this right here. Someone's holding my head down. You know, this honestly is my plan A. Go behind their hand, so reach as far back as you can, and peel forward. And you should be able to peel your way out if you peel in the correct direction. Now, if I reach up and I try to pull forward, it's hard. Because that's me pulling away. It's just not as strong. Okay, it's basically tricep strength. Whereas this is, I'm much stronger there, and we're going to have more success when we push forward. So do push forward, don't pull forward when someone's holding onto your head. And you should actually be able to break that head control pretty easily. So for the head control, we have wet dog. I'm wiggling side to side and backwards at the same time, trying to keep their arms where they are. Okay? And if I have trouble, don't do this, do this, pushing forward. And you, okay, now I'm here and I can start. Another problem you might run into is when somebody has got you in their guard, them attacking your wrists when you try to use your hands as kickstands to support your posture. In the guard, unfortunately, there is no just sitting up, especially if somebody could be pulling on you, and you're going to need to break those grips, right? We need little kickstands. That's why we put our hands on the abdomen. So the hands are on the body, but sometimes, you know, they're scooping our wrists or they're grabbing our wrist material. So I want to talk about when they are, if they're just scooping your wrists because it's no-gi, you know, you'll get it. Keep stepping over, you'll get it. That's a losing battle for the bottom person. Controlling your wrists is another thing, okay? And this is going to be with material or if they're grabbing your wrist. You know, we want to think about circling. See which way circling your wrist helps you break free, okay? So that's number one. Try circling. Number two, try 2-on-1. If somebody's got a grip here and you're just having a hard time, you know, you may want to use one hand to free the other. So just the idea of using 2-on-1. Sometimes it doesn't occur to us because we're like, oh, get off me. And you think on both sides at the same time. You know, we got to do one thing at a time, so sometimes 2-on-1 is what you need to get your grips cleared off the person. Keep in mind when you're stripping gi grips that this idea of stripping from the pinky toward the thumb does work, and it also works when someone's got grips on your wrist. So if somebody's holding me here, but I can circle outside from the pinky toward the thumb, that's helpful. Or if I can reach over and peel from the pinky toward the thumb with the other hand, that's also good. If somebody's holding onto my sleeve at the end of the cuff, right, and they've got a cat's paws grip, so that means they grab the material, turn it over, and they're holding it here, then circling may not get you free. Honestly, maybe not the way to get out. One of the things we can do, though, is if you think about how this grip is structured, one of the ways that I might be able to pull out is getting the material to come right out from between the fingertips. Okay, this isn't a one-hand move. Usually, I'm going to say this is probably going to be something that takes both hands to do, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, pretending that someone has got a grip on the top side, the watch side, or the tan side of my arm with their cat's paw grip, I'm going to slink my arm back in, and I'm going to get my own grip on the other side. I'm going to hold on here, okay? Now, we're both holding the material, so there's a lot of tension around my wrist, and that means the material's not going to have a lot of give for them. So now I can hold cat's paw, their grip, right? I can hold on to or pistol grip, any grip on their cuff, and then I can push this through. And what's going to happen is, because I have such a grip here, and there's tightness around the material, when they've got this grip here, and I punch right down the pale side of their arm. So this is my hand holding my material. This is their hand holding my material on the tan side of my arm. I'm going to go down the pale side of their arm. What happens is the material comes out from between their fingers. This is one of the grip strips that helps my students when they ask me about, hey, I'm getting spider guards set up on me and stuff like that. A lot of times it's because these cat's paw grips on our cuffs are just a pain, real pain. So when you get the top of your cuff grab the bottom, use the other hand on their hand just to keep it where it is, and then punch right down the pale side of their arm, and you'll find that you can get this one free and then free the other one, or do the same thing on this side. You'll be getting your grips back. You can start using your hands again for the posts you need for posture. When you get around to passing, what if the person sticks their arm out and they just stop your forward progression? So let's look at the first pass that we did. Hands on the ground. I open, center, swipe, and wipe. I create this space here. Everything's going well. I put my two soldiers in. I pin, and then I start to progress, but I can't progress because the guy on the bottom is doing this. They're stopping my hip. So my hip is very important. big central block of skeletal material. And it's why it's so important in jiu-jitsu that we control the hips, and it's why this is actually effective for the bottom person. You are otherwise passing, but they stop you, and maybe they can stop you long enough to loop a foot in or cut a knee back through or something and get you back in guard. So it's a real problem, but it's got a real solution, and it's very simple actually. I got this from Pedro Sauer, and I use it absolutely every time someone puts their hand on my hip. I actually want someone to put their hand on my hip now because of the position I end up in when I do this response. Hands on the abdomen, open, center, swipe, wipe. Now this is, I'm just passing, right? Here I am, pin. It's time to progress, but I'm getting stopped. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna move my body a little bit away from their body. And then I'm gonna swipe my knee in and staple their arm. I'll show you what happens. Bottom person was here, and I stop, they stop my hips where they are. Here's why I moved away from their body. I just need a little bit of an entrance, a lane in here for my shin to come across and staple their arm. Now when you finish passing the guard, you're gonna have an arm staple as well, which means this hand can't defend, for example, a dropping elbow for a paper cutter. So it's a very good move for your pass when they block the hip. So I've gotten all the way to here. I put these in, I pin, I try to progress, but they block the hip, so I get just a little distance to create that lane, cut this knee in and staple their arm, and honestly now I'm probably gonna go right for a choke once I get to that side mount. So yes, it's a problem you'll run into where they block the hip, but you get comfortable with this move and you'll come to really invite them to be blocking your hip, because stapling the arm is a very powerful way of attacking side mount, so it's a great place to land. My students know that the double underpass is my favorite pass. In fact, all my training partners know it's my very favorite pass. I've got a couple little twists that are maybe my own. Maybe I don't remember where I got them. I'm sure I'm not the first person to do them, but I'm going to share them here because I have a high rate of success with the double underpass. I'm going to do the same thing I usually do to create either space or a break in the legs here. And this is maybe even a little closer to the RELSON pass in that what I usually do is concentrate on arching my back, right? And getting the arch of my back to the cross of their legs. If there's a bunch of space back here and I start hunching, that doesn't do anything. I need where their ankles are crossed, I need to get my arch back there so that when I hunch it, the tension is already on their ankles. I can't leave space between my back and their ankles. So the first thing I'm doing is hands on the abdomen, arch back, and I find their ankles. Now there's already a little bit of stress on their ankles, just my connection of my back to their ankles. Now I'm going to open and center. And this is really honestly how I most often create space. It's just the hunching back. Now, I dive 2 arms in, and I'm going to hold their leg here and pin it to the floor. So what's this leg doing? Well, I just tip their hips to the side, and their legs look like this, and I'm under one of them, and my other knee's job is just to pinch the hip and to keep this other leg from getting involved over here in putting the foot on my hip or putting a hook under my leg. Passing is a game. Double underpassing is a game in which I don't want a foot to ever touch my hip or ever underhook my leg. Hands are on the abdomen, my back is arched and against their ankles. I find the ankles, and now I just create a little more space, and now I can shoot this in. Now I'm going to take their legs, which are like this, roll the ball of their hips this way by holding onto this leg, and this one closes the space over here. Okay, now because their legs go like this, I have a little space back here to swing my arm around and hold onto their belt. So let's call it a gi pass for now. I'm going to come around behind, grab the belt, put this knee back down and grab this belt. Now their legs are over my shoulders. So I'm ready to go. I'm ready to double underpass. From here, the finish that I prefer right now is the one that Marcio Stambowski helped me with when we were in Mexico and I was teaching the double under. And I completed my class and he said, hey, let me add some details to how you're finishing. And this is fantastic stuff. I'm now going to row the person onto my lap. It's actually not a giant strength move. It's actually not a giant strength move. You should be able to, especially with any body tension on their part, you should be able to just row, okay? Now I've got the belt in my hands, their hips are on my lap, and now I can hoist forward. So I'm gonna thrust here. So I row and then thrust my hips, and what happens is, when their hips are here, their legs are kind of here, because I've got the belt. When I hoist, their legs go whoosh, and they're in front of me just a little bit. I only need to see the hamstrings. Okay, and then I'm going to bring my head outside the leg, right here. And I'm going to just put them down and get my control right here. And I've actually turned the person enough that I've taken side mount without having to move around them. And this is one of the things I really like about this finish. Okay, so double under. Hands on the abdomen, the arch of my back. Find the cross of their legs. It's not against you possibly. You might have to go back and find it. Open center. I hunch back because here's the space for my hands. In this case, my palms are facing away, and I grab the legs. It tilts their hips so their two legs do this, and I close this space with this knee. That also gives me a prop so that I have space here guaranteed to get over their belt, put this back down and get the belt on both sides. Now it's a row. Their hamstrings are on my biceps, and a thrust, right? And there's a little space here. Their hamstrings come off of my biceps, and I bring my head to the side, and now I can just pass right here. I like to come over their arm and under their head if possible to get a good solid side mount. Okay, and that's the basic double under pass. I'm going to do it one more time. Arch of my back has to be against their ankles. That's a very important piece of this. Otherwise, you won't get the space you need. Okay, hands on the abdomen, back is arched. And I open, center, and open these legs, open at least a space. Dive my hands in, tilt their hips to this side long enough to get their belt, and put them back. And now center myself back up, get my row, thrust, and bring my head around their leg. Right? And now I'm past. I'm already seeing side mount. Okay? And now I'm going to come in. I like to go over their arm and under their head when I come around. And that is, I just pop their legs up, and as I come around, I like to go over this arm, but under this head. Okay? I don't want to go under both where they can maybe roll away from me. Okay, and that's the double under pass. One of the problems you'll run into doing the double under pass, as I've instructed it, is when the legs don't open or they feel too tight. This actually isn't a real problem that's going to stop you from getting the pass. It's just your partner delaying the inevitable, and I want you to have that confidence going in that you're not going to stop this pass just because you're tight. But there is a little bit of a technique in order to open the legs when you just don't have room because they're holding you around your shoulders, okay? So it's this here. Hands on the abdomen, back is arched. I find the cross of their ankles. Open center. When I backed up, it didn't open. They have very long legs, or they're just starting to slide up my leg a little bit, but I still have space, so I decide to continue. But their legs never opened. When I come in, their legs are around my shoulders and chest, and I might get all the way to here, their legs never opened. And that's fine, you'll finish many times despite that. But if they're squeezing, I reach under, but then I start getting crushed, you're gonna find very hard to move anywhere. Very simple, small movement will solve this problem. Turn your palms to the floor, stop holding their leg. Palms to the floor, put your knee down, and back up. No one can hold on to this. This is how you break that grip. Hands on the floor, arched back, find the cross of their legs, open center, create space. Okay, their legs didn't open, but I see daylight, so I'm going. So boom, I go, but then, I step up, but I'm getting pinched, okay? So I just need this. If they're that committed to doing that and nothing else, you can tell they're not taking your back. So you can let go of the leg for a moment to back up. And what happens is, look, I'm creating a wedge with my arms. That's gonna pop the legs open, no doubt. So now get the belt before they get away and get yourself back to here, and you should be able to finish the pass as usual. Another troubleshooting item I find worthwhile to teach with the double under pass as I teach it is a problem that's not a problem if you know what to do. And that's this here. Hands on the abdomen. My back is arched. I open center. I back up. Okay, I get all the way to this part here, right? And I've pinned their leg. Their legs have tipped like this, and I'm here. But they see this leg, and as the person on the bottom, I'm here, someone's holding my leg, okay? But randomly their leg is right here, or pinching my hip. It may feel productive for this person to underhook this leg. And again, this is one of those situations I welcome because it does honestly help your pass. So I've gotten all the way to here, okay? Someone underhooks this leg, so now their legs are here and here. I've got this one. All I do is with their leg here, I cut my elbow up to the ceiling, and then I push their leg across, and I've actually passed on this side. What they did when they reached under my leg was take away one of their own defenses, which was that hand, to stop me from just progressing on that side. So because they committed to my leg, they took away their own defense in terms of using their upper body to stop my progression on that side. So it actually makes it a quick, easy finish. And again, it's that elbow to the ceiling. So check it out. I get to here. Boom. Someone underhooks this leg, okay? But their leg is just sitting here. I'm going to do this. I come between my body and their leg, and I use my forearm to clear their leg. And now I'm on top of side mount. And they might have some little grip on my lower leg, but I mean, I'm in side mount. So it all works out. In fact, this is one of those moves that I welcome people underhooking my leg because it just makes this pass. Boom. Oh, okay. Boom. And I'm passed. Elbow to the ceiling, use your forearm to move it, and you pass. One of the main problems that people run into that I really do think is a major problem for passing with a double under is when the opponent, seeing what you're doing, which is trying to get a pass involving coming under their legs, and they say, well, you know what, you're not going to go under my legs. I'm going to make my legs so heavy that there is no lifting my legs anymore, and you're not going to go under my guard, okay? So they try to take that away from you. And that's a moment when you have to change tactics just a little bit. Let's say I've gotten, I've set up everything correct, popped in, and I'm here, I get the belt, okay, I'm holding the belt, I square up with them. Now, they take their legs off my shoulders, okay? I have no real way to keep them on there. I mean, I can only shelf so much, correct? So their legs come off, which means they come off onto my biceps or forearms, and they make them maybe heavy like this, but maybe heavy like this, which is even heavier. I mean, they're using the whole limb if they use straight legs. So you'll get somewhere on that spectrum. Bent legs that are just like, it's all strength, or straight legs where they're using a little bit more of the natural counterbalancing leverage of lengthening the limbs, these heavy limbs, okay? So I'm underneath, and I realize, this is like heavy. I'm like not gonna get underneath, okay? So troubleshooting tip number one, I think you can get underneath a lot of the time when it looks like you can't. And it's just by changing your structure underneath. Now, you may not have what you need strength-wise to lift the legs, but you may have what you need leverage-wise to create a wedge, and that is using your leg. So just stepping up might be what you need to help you pass. Use your leg like that. It is a very powerful, basically a structure that you build underneath the fallen buildings of their legs, and we're just trying to hoist those things up, right? So when I get to here, if I can just lean enough to get a little step, look, I've already got their hips now tilted, and it might just be this that I need to pass. Okay, so sometimes the answer is posting the foot. Other times, I go for a change in approach entirely, from going under the legs to going over. If they're gonna really make their legs low to the ground in an effort to prevent me from getting myself underneath, well, I have to go over, okay? And this is just a strategy change that people sometimes don't think of in the moment because we all get bullheaded about the thing that we want. So once I've gotten all the way to having their belt, okay, and I square myself up with them, you may find when they make themselves heavy like that it keeps their hips forward and there is no rowing them onto you. Everything becomes a little more difficult. But one thing you can do is this. Presuming the leg is, as semi-straight and the foot's like somewhere back here. What I like to do is this. I'll reach back and I'll grab pants or the foot. So I go from underneath holding the belt to holding that foot. And now watch, I put my shoulder on the abdomen and I just hop over their leg. So I'm here, do that same thing, give you the other angle. I'm here, I can't pull them onto my lap. I'm having a hard time getting off my leg, possibly because there's so much weight, which probably means the legs are straight. So I'm gonna reach back behind me, back here, we're gonna find their leg. I just turn over, grab pants particularly helpful, or the ankle if we're no-gi. Put that same grabbing hands, shoulder on my person, and then I'm just gonna hop the leg. A lot of times it's embarrassingly easy for you to pass someone's guard, and it's a big regret right away for them for having straightened their legs. But that is an option for you. Try changing strategy from under the legs to over the legs. The most advanced guys that I try a double under pass on do one particular defense, which is actually more of a counterattack than a defense. And it's something you have to be very ready for, and the timing battle at the higher levels becomes much more important. Let's say I get all the way to the point when I'm holding their belt and I've got these under grips. Sometimes what people do is they'll reach through and under your armpit, and I'm gonna mimic what that person does here in a moment. I've got the belt. All I have to do from here is finish my move by either rowing or stepping up or possibly changing tactic and going over, as we've discussed. The person on the bottom may know this, and because they have just a little bit of a snapshot with my arms under their legs. They may have a little snapshot of my armpits right here. Here's my torso. Here are my arms disappearing underneath. So torso comes up, arms go down. There's a little triangle here. Now, if a little triangle of space. If a person down here can shoot through and create a gable grip, a lot of times they have enough leg power from here to kick this free and start setting up a triangle on me. So what they will do is, here's my torso, here are my arms disappearing, and in this little triangle right here, they reach through, gable grip, and free their leg, okay? And now I'm in some triangle danger. That's true, right? Because now I have one arm and my head in. So from here, they're gonna start setting up a triangle, okay? Legitimate counterattack. Absolutely works. And I've run into trouble now a couple times, both with Croyler Gracie and Hogan Gracie, who's Helian's son. And these are a couple of, like, obviously high-level black belt guys I got an opportunity to train with recently. I do always go for my double under, and when you go with a good enough guy, you'll run into some good counterattacks, and I ran into this. So I can handle this, not yet with those guys, but with some, with people not quite so perfectly timed, when I can give them more than they bargained for, and this is what I mean. I have the belt, only my head is in their guard. They put this through here to pull my arm through. What I want to do is this. When they start to succeed here, I'm going to just go to the side a little bit so that my knee fits too. And if they're going to pull my arm through, I'm going to staple their leg as well. So if you want the arm, it's okay. But I'm giving you the knee also, right? That's what it is. It's like, okay, if you want to borrow my cute dog, that's cool. But you're going to have to take, you know, the one who poops everywhere also. I've got the belt. They only have my head in their guard. They reach under here. They start pulling this in. I'm going to move just a little bit to the side because I need their hips to tilt this way so my knee actually goes over one of their legs, because I can't just have it, you know, not reach. It's under here after all. So I'm going to bring it here so my knee also fits over, and I'm going to let them have the arm but also give them the knee. And now I've stapled their leg and I've begun to pass. Okay, so giving them a little more than they bargained for when they pull your arm through by giving them your knee also gives you a different kind of pass. It's another kind of pass where we're going, in this case, over their guard.